Hey, welcome back, fellow boomer. I'm glad you could join me. Today, we're going to talk about a technique from the neuro-linguistic programming field, and I'll explain what that is in just a second. It's a technique called the anchoring technique. Now, in these chaotic times of just fast change, did you ever get to the point where you're angry or you're frustrated or you're just generally pissed off? Of course you have. We all have at one point or another. The technique that I'm going to show you is very effective for bringing yourself up to a more resourceful state if you're angry, if you're frustrated, and not feeling too resourceful. This has been proven to work because I've used it for years. I used it for one specific thing, but it'll work for just about any state of mind that you want to access at any given time. Now, let's talk about where this came from. Neuro-linguistic programming, a lot of people aren't familiar with it. This was a technology that was developed back in the 1970s by two researchers by the name of John Grinder and Richard Bandler. And I Googled it because it's the best way to explain what NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is. Neuro meaning the brain, linguistic meaning language, and programming meaning a system. But I'll read what Google has to say about it to give you an overview, and then I'll give you an analogy of how this all works, because this is all based on visualizations in your brain, what they call in the NLP field patterns. All right, now this is what Google says about NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, is a self-help and communication approach developed in the 1970s based on the idea that our thoughts, neuro, language, linguistic, and patterns of behavior, programming, are interconnected and can be changed to achieve goals, improve communication, and overcome issues like anxiety, phobias, and trauma by modeling successful strategies and reprogramming unhelpful mental loops. It uses techniques like mirroring, reframing, and anchoring, which I'm going to teach you today, to build rapport, alter responses, and create new, more effective neural pathways for the better. Now, I started studying this, I want to say, in the early 90s. It's been over 30 years, and I was a pretty serious student for a while, and I practiced this. The technique I'm going to show you is very, very simple. Is basically 6 steps, not even, and I'll explain what this is all about. So, basically, what this is based on is these are called patterns, and they are focused visualizations. And let me just explain how this works. The best way to explain how it works is a record player. Now, if you're a boomer like me, you remember record players. We played 33 and a third albums, right? Remember those days? My grandfather played 78s. We had 45 singles, all that. If you remember, it goes around on a turntable, right? There's grooves in the record, and the needle plays and interprets the grooves for the music, right? However that works, however that technology is. Now, you take that same thing, same record, and that same needle, and you scratch that record, and we've all done that, right? What happens? The record never plays the same again. So every time it goes around and hits that, it bumps. The same thing is happening with anchoring and patterns. Basically, for anything you do, for me to just even lift up this computer, right? There's a neural pathway in my brain. Our brain has about 10 billion cells in it, all right? So when I go to lift this computer, there is a pathway in my brain of all these cells. There's connecting to be able to do this, to do that simple motion. There's a neural pathway. Now, what we're doing with anchoring or any NLP patterning is changing that pathway to a different way of thinking and behaving. And when you rehearse this, you condition that pattern, it becomes automatic. And in other words, you never do that. The record never plays the same again. And that's all we're doing. So, how did I use this technique, the anchoring technique? Well, I used to be a professional speaker, and sometimes I was speaking up to 5 times a week. And I don't know about you, it sounds, it's an exciting life. There's no getting around it, but it's also very hard. There's not a lot of glamour to it, a lot of travel, a lot of frustration. Um, and there's days where, you do 4 straight, and I've got to get up and do another keynote on Friday, and I just don't feel like it, right? I'm human. And there's days where I just don't feel like going on stage. So what I did was I anchored myself to be to get myself psyched up. And that was the anchor I fired off. And I'll explain that, just that. And I can feel it now. It's like I'm getting juiced here. And that would motivate my brain to say, hey, let's go get them. Let's go get them. Go, go, go. Get on stage and motivate and inspire and impact these people. That's how effective it is. It does work if you rehearse it. So, and this will work for any emotion that you want to access. Now, say you're upset, you're frustrated, you're angry as hell, um, and there's nothing that can bring you back, or you think there's nothing that can bring you back. Now, by doing this anchoring technique, you may not get up to the point where you're just feeling happy and pure joy, right? But you'll get up to a resourceful state by firing off this anchor. I'll explain in just a second here. You will get up to a more resourceful state where you're not angry, seeing red, and you're more rational because your brain told you to calm down, basically, by firing off the anchor. Now, let me just take you through this exercise. It's very simple to do. It's basically 4 to 6 steps, depending on how you look at it. The first step is go someplace quiet. Go someplace where you won't be disturbed for about a half hour. Give yourself at least 20 minutes for this. You can either lie down on your bed or you can sit in a recliner. Just make sure you're comfortable and very relaxed. All right, that's crucial for this. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take an emotion that you want to access. So let's take peace and calm. That you want to be able to get up to a resourceful state of as calm and peaceful as you can be anytime you want to access that. So we'll take that as the behavior that, or the feeling that we want to manifest using this technique. So you want to lie down or sit down, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. That always gets you right relaxed. And then visualize. Take yourself to a place. Take yourself to a time and a place where you were very peaceful and calm. That might be you were out in a boat in a lake or maybe on the ocean. Or for me, I grew up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, and I remember there was a place that I would go to, this little stream up in the mountains, and I would sit there. It was just, to me, it was Serenity Central. And so I'll put myself back there, and that's what you want to do in your mind. You want to put yourself back to that place where you're serene and calm. And you want to think about that in terms of make it real. Let me tell you about your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. Okay, so that's why NLP and patterns and any kind of visualization exercises are so very effective because your brain doesn't know the difference. And why do I know that? Have you ever woken up from a nightmare? Of course you have. Might have been a while, but when you woke up, most likely, if you're like me, you were scared to death, shaking maybe, and some people were sweating because what your brain experienced during that dream state, even though it was a nightmare, it was a dream state, it was very real to you. And the brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined, right? So when you use this, you're using your brain in a very focused way to access the calm that you want. So you want to visualize that and put yourself right there. Make the colors real bright. You can be what we call associated to it, where you're right in it, experiencing it, or you can look from the distance and watch yourself. So that's associating or dissociate. It's up to you, whatever works for you. Make the colors really bright. Make the sounds really uh, palatable. I shouldn't say palatable. Make them real. Um, Picture them in your mind. What does the stream sound like? Do you hear the wind rustling through the trees? So you want to make these are submodalities, and we want to make those as bright and strong as we can because we're going to fire off an anchor. Now, you want to put yourself in this peaceful state, and you want to look at it as a bell curve, right? And you're going, as you visualize yourself, it's kind of like a meditation, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. What you'll do is you'll get to a point where you're almost to the peak state of calm. So you look at it as this bell curve, and right near the top, when you start feeling that you're most calm, that's when you fire off an anchor. Now, let me explain about anchors. We are anchored by smells, by sights, by sounds, by touch, tactile, right? When you smell popcorn, what do you think of? Most people say the movie theater. Growing up, we went to the movie theater, ate popcorn, we watched the movie, right? So that was anchored in our brain. You smell popcorn. I know in my case, if I smell popcorn, I think of the movie theater, the Strand Theater in Ridgeway. It was an old opera house, just very majestic. Every time I smell popcorn, that's what I go back to. My mind goes back to that. We're anchored by looks. My mother, growing up, could give me a look that would put the fear of God into me. She just had to, and I just knew. So I was anchored to that. If she made that look, that produced an emotion in me, and a pretty petrifying one for the most part. Um, so we're anchored all the time by this. Now, that's what we're doing here is we're doing it in a very focused way. So you got yourself relaxed in this very relaxed state with your eyes closed, and you're getting peaceful, more and more peaceful. And when you're right at the peak of peace, that's when you fire off the anchor. Now, the anchor might be something as simple as touching your finger and thumb together, right? Or it might be a touch and a sound, something like that. Or it could be like me, I touched my shoulder, just tapped it. Yeah. And said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh boy. See, I could tell that. And this is going back, folks, 25 years that I set this anchor up, and I rehearse it so much that I can, yeah, I'm jazzed, ready to go on stage, right? That's how effective it is. So once you get that, hit that, fire off that anchor. For me, it was something. Now you got to make sure it's something that your brain recognizes. It's something solid. It might be, if you're going to close your finger like that, do it pretty firmly. Or you can do the touch and the noise. It's sending the same signal to your brain. Okay. So once you do that, you fire off the anchor, bring yourself out of that visualization, get up from that chair, go into the other room and do something else. All right. Why is that? Then what you're going to do about a half hour later, test the anchor, fire it off. Now, do not be surprised if it doesn't work or is not as strong as you think it should be. In other words, you fire off the anchor and you want to feel calm and you don't feel that calm. There's a reason for that. You have to rehearse this in your brain. You have to condition your brain to do this. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do this every single day for a couple weeks and condition your brain so it sets off, or I should say, it establishes a new neural pathway so that anytime you set off that anchor, right, is a stimulus response. That's what this is. You have to condition your brain, rehearse it over and over and over so it becomes automatic. Then you do this a dozen times, 10, 12 times, you fire off that anchor. I guarantee you might not be totally meditative calm, but you're going to be in a more resourceful, calm, peaceful state than you were before. This technique is effective. This is a really good one to use in these chaotic times when you may get frustrated, like I said, or something. Just watch the news. Turn on the news if you want to feel bad, right? Because it's mostly bad news, sensationalized. But this is very, very effective for combating those negative emotions or these negative things that you see on TV or social media that'll make your blood pressure rise. I know I use it. So I hope you use it. Give it a shot. It's very effective. It does work. You just have to let it can't not work because, again, as they say, the map isn't the territory in your brain. You can set the neural pathway a different, you can take your brain a different way and take your emotions a different way voluntarily, that you have this to stay in control. So I hope you're getting something out of these videos. This technique works. Use it. Let me know how it works for you in the comments. If you have any comments, I always love to hear that. Please hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my videos. I love to hear from you. I love to hear other boomers' take on everything I talked about. I'd love to make this interactive. So just to wrap up, just remember, resilience has nothing to do with age, folks. It has to do with attitude. I'll see you in the next one.